Hi, okay, so this video is about the duties of an executor. What does an executor do? And some tips for taking an estate through probate. Now, obviously I can't cover everything, so this isn't going to be a comprehensive overview, but more just some things that stand out to me in retrospect that I thought were important, and even some things that I wish I had known before I went through that process. All right, and if you want more detailed information, if you go to the website, you'll find links to books, or a list of books that I think are excellent. Some you can check out for free from libraries, or you can buy them very cheaply on Amazon. Another great resource that I really encourage you to use is whatever government agency or office it is that handles probate in your area. Go to them, check their website out. In my case, it's the Fairfax County Circuit Court. They have excellent information online, and also if you go there in person, and also they have a monthly meeting, seminar sort of thing, where you can ask questions and find out all sorts of information. So there's lots of places to get lots of information. I'm just going to hit the highlights of a few things that I think you should keep in mind and kind of give an overview of the process. All right, first of all, there's a big thing before, whoever you're the executor of, before they pass away, you should spend a lot of time digging into the details of their finances. Now, I know that's kind of awkward for a lot of different reasons, and in my case it certainly was. My grandmother was very independent, and she, all the way up until she died, she was still handling her affairs for the most part. Until right before she passed away. So it was difficult, but looking back, I wish that I had gone in and just sort of forced myself more into her financial affairs. I mean, I wish I had sat down, I don't know, maybe once a quarter and gone through every bank statement that she got in, every brokerage statement, because I would have found out a lot of things that I didn't find out until after she died about various expenses that were being paid, various income that was coming in. There were things, I mean, we of course talked about generally all that kind of stuff, but I'm sure there were things that she had forgotten about or didn't really think about. But if we had systematically gone through those statements, that would have helped a lot. And one sort of big thing that happened in my case that was not such a good thing is we gave the wrong Social Security number to the funeral home. And the reason that happened is because I used a booklet that my grandmom had where she had written things down about what kind of funeral she wanted to have and so forth, and in there she wrote down her Social Security number. So that's what I used when the funeral home asked for a Social Security number. Turned out it was one digit off, and so that caused some problems. I had to apply to the state capitol to get a new death certificate, and that caused some delay and some trouble. And that probably wouldn't have happened if I had been more involved in her financial affairs. Another thing that I found out after she passed away, she hadn't been filing her taxes for the past couple years before she died. And I had discussed that with her, but she always said she would do it, and she didn't want me to do it. So, I let it go. And but I'm sure if I had done it, of course that problem would have been resolved. I wouldn't have to worry about that now, and it would have been easier to do those taxes. And I probably would have had a document with her Social Security number on it, so when she passed away, I wouldn't have given the wrong Social Security number to the funeral home, and we wouldn't have had to get a new death certificate and all the stuff involved in that. So again, my tip number one, before they pass away, sit down and force yourself to dig into their financial affairs with them, because the other thing is, at least in my experience, and I think in a lot of people's experience, you don't expect them to pass away, and but when it happens, it sort of happens suddenly. My grandma was totally fine, and then all of a sudden she got very sick, and once she got very sick, that was it. There was no more sort of productive discussion about her estate. Then it was all medical issues. So get into the financial issues before that happens. Tip number 2, and this is also something that really I should have done before my grandmother passed away, long before. Find out what is involved in getting appointed the executor. In my case, I waited till my grandma passed away. I figured I'd be able to go down to the probate court and get appointed. And that's true, except when I tried to do that, I found out, well, you have to have an appointment. And they're booked for 6 weeks. So eventually, I made the appointment, but I didn't do that till maybe 2 weeks after the funeral. So, and then we waited another 6 weeks before I had that appointment. So that means there was 2 months, eight weeks, where estate assets were in limbo. Probate assets, which included some stocks that everyone was anxious to sell. The heirs, they were worried the stock market was going to plummet. They wanted them sold. I could do absolutely nothing until I was appointed as the executor. And again, that was delayed. Now, in my case, the best I could have done was set the appointment, right after my grandma passed away. And so it still would have been a delay of 6 weeks. But anyway, I'm just saying, get your ducks in a row, find out about that as soon as possible, and then call and get that appointment if you need an appointment as soon as possible after the death. And they will tell you, they're very helpful, and they'll tell you exactly what you need to bring to the appointment. Bring those documents, and you'll get appointed as the executor. It's very easy. I don't think you need a lawyer to do that, at least in most cases. And in fact, I think in virtually all cases, even if you have a lawyer, you still have to go do it yourself. You still have to personally appear and be appointed. So why pay the lawyer to be there with you? And, by the way, most people who aren't familiar with the process think it's a big deal to go to probate court and get appointed as the executor. It sounds like it. You think you have to appear before a judge and have a hearing and all that sort of stuff. In my case, in Fairfax County, and I think this is probably true, in most places, I actually just went in and met with a clerk and gave him my documents and talked through the issues, paid a little bit of probate tax. The final probate tax settlement doesn't happen until you settle, but you pay a little bit up front. But anyway, really it was a very informal, very easy process that you can do yourself. One of the things, and this is tip number 3 or duty number 3, they will give you a form, at least in my case, that I could use to notify the heirs that I had been appointed executor. And that's something that you're required to do. You just fill out that form, send it to the heirs, and then later you'll have to notify or inform the court, the probate court or the clerk's office, that you did that. All right, duty number 4 on my list is to gather and consolidate assets. First you got to find them, make sure that you have them all, and that sort of takes some Sherlock Holmes detective work. I mean, for me, I went through I knew most of the stuff. I mean, most of it was easy, but to do, due diligence, I had to go through a lot of paperwork and chase down a lot of different leads, potential life insurance policies. I found a key that said a safety deposit box at a certain bank, so I had to go to the bank, find out if the safety deposit box existed and what was there. You need to check online. Each state has an office where they keep lost assets, and I did that and found a little bit of money that was sitting there that was my grandmom's. So, detective work to locate all the assets, and then decide, what to do with them. And that depends. I mean, in some cases, for instance, with stocks, it may be best to pass them on. But in some cases, and I think generally speaking, if you have multiple heirs, it's probably going to work out, and certainly in my case, it worked out best to sell so that you had cash, which is much easier to divide and distribute. Hopefully, if real estate, and in my case, the real estate was in a trust, that makes life much easier. If it's not, you're going to have to deal with that, and that's more difficult to do through probate. Now, non-financial assets like coins, art collections, that sort of thing, you're going to have to value that. You know, you've got to come up with a value, you know, before you distribute it. You might have to get appraisals. Point number 5, I say, get an estate tax number. You're going to need that to open up a bank account to move these assets into. And I have a whole video that shows you exactly step by step how to get an estate tax EIN number at the IRS website. Very simple to do, for free, easy. Point number 6, open up an estate bank account. This is where you're going to want to put all the assets from the estate. Now, in my case, I had to open up 2 bank accounts, one estate bank account, one trust bank account. And this is not uncommon. My grandmom had a pour-over will. So she had a will, she had a trust, first of all, and we put some things into the trust, and those things went separately. They didn't have to go through probate. But everything that had to go through probate went through probate, but then it pours over into the trust and gets distributed according to the terms of the trust. So first it has to go into an estate bank account, then be transferred to the trust bank account, and then distributed. So, you know, I had to get a trust tax ID number and an estate tax ID number. And again, I have videos showing you exactly how to do both of those things. Get a good banker. Find someone that you work well with. That's the best way I can put it. I have 2 videos where I talk about my different experiences with 2 different financial institutions. One experience was really bad, the other one was really good. And so if you look at that, you'll get some ideas about what to look out for. I won't go into any more about that here. Number 7, comply with notice requirements to potential creditors. This is normally an easy thing. The probate court clerk office can tell you what you need to do, but you've got to do that. Then you're going to have to pay the debts of the estate. In my case, there weren't many of those, but that's another thing that you're going to have to do. But again, as long as you comply with the notice requirements, it's also up to the creditors to come and find you. So you have a duty, but they also have a duty, and that's how that process works. Taxes. Number 8, you're going to have to file and pay the taxes, both of the individual taxes, the last year of his or her life, and also the taxes of the estate and or trust. And it's possible in some cases to consolidate that into one tax return. The first tax return is a 1040, the individual. The other tax return, which is the trust and or estate, is a 1041 form. Number 9. Now we're getting through the process. Number 9 is submit the inventory and final accounting and settlement to the probate court. So that is what it says. Hopefully, hopefully you're able, as I'm hopefully going to be able to do that all at one time. Submit the inventory and a full final accounting, pay any probate taxes that I might owe. And I talk about probate taxes, how much they are. Generally, they're not really very much, but they are a little something. So that's how you handle that. Sometimes you'll have to petition the court to make the final distribution, and that, you know, the procedures are different in different localities. So, but they'll be happy to explain that to you. And the last thing you do is distribute the assets per the terms of the will, or if it's a pour-over will and it goes into a trust, per the terms of the will. Like I say, most of these duties apply both to a trustee and to an executor. It's pretty much the same process for both sides. In my case, I had some assets that were not probate. They were right in the trust that I was the trustee for. Some assets had to go through probate, and so that was, you know, estate assets that I was the executor for. So I did it both ways. Generally speaking, it's most of your duties are the same, but obviously with the trust, you don't have to deal with the probate court, which is a great benefit of a living trust. I hope this video has been helpful, and look forward to seeing you on the website. Thanks.